Hi, guys. Welcome back to Voice Vulnerabilities, where we share common struggles and experiences that might not be talked about in daily life. And continuing with the previous series of mental health, I just wanted to touch base on how to just break mental health stigma. And I think we have the perfect guest here because she dedicates a lot of her time to breaking mental health stigma and is the founder of a mental health awareness organization called Let's Break the Shame. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so just to like jump straight into it, you're the founder of Let's Break the Shame. Could you maybe elaborate on what is it you guys do and what your main role is?
Yeah, so Let's Break the Shame is a mental health charity, like you said already. I set it up 2 years ago. Initially, it was more like a side hustle. So I was still studying back then, and I've been struggling with mental health things for a long time now.
Mm.
And I didn't really have or I felt like I couldn't talk about it. But then slowly I was a bit fed up with that, so to say. And I thought like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's going through things. So that's when I started an Instagram campaign. So it's still there. It's Our Instagram is mainly dedicated to people who share a story related to their mental health struggles, or from a loved one or a friend, or yeah, anyone in their close surroundings. And the idea behind it is to open up a conversation and to make people feel heard and understood, and to let them realize they're not alone, even though they might feel like that. And from there on, we actually started doing other projects. So we're organizing events on depression and anxiety now. We're doing online events on grief, eating disorders. And we're doing podcasts, videos, workshops. It's companies as well about mental health. So yeah, we've grown a lot in the past 2 years. So we have about 6 or 7 projects now, all with the aim of opening up about mental health struggles and just to normalize it. Um, so yeah, that's about us.
Wow. I feel so amazed that you did like initiate this just like stemming from your own personal experience and like using your experience to just like help others and as you said open up a conversation that is quite hard, I would say, still in
Yeah.
society. It's still it's still getting there, but I think there's, as you said, like much more that we can initiate and much more we can do for more progress. And you said that you were having some like struggle yourself with mental health issues. Could you maybe
Mhm.
elaborate on that and what it was you experienced and how that really truly inspired you to start this?
Yeah, so ever since I was 13, I've been struggling with depression. Um, Mainly, or like I was officially diagnosed with depression when I was 13 or 14. But then later on, I've also started developing like anxiety. I had a lot of problems with eating. Um, did therapy on PTSD as well. So a lot of things actually. Um, and I'm still recovering, so it's not in the past yet.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think, or I know, if I would have felt like I could talk about it, or with friends, or at school, or just anywhere, I feel like my recovery journey wouldn't be this long. And that's why I started it, because I feel like, I mean, no one deserves to spend years on thinking about, okay, what if I'm not sick enough, or maybe it's just me, maybe I'm crazy. Nobody deserves to go through that for years or a day even. So I think that's the main reason why I started this, to get rid of that shame and stigma, so that people can actually focus on the root cause of their depression or eating disorder or whatever they're going through. Um, because at the end of the day, we all want people to, feel better as soon as possible. And from my own experience, I think that cannot be the case if there's still such a shame and stigma around it.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
yeah.
So from early on, when you were diagnosed, people around you just weren't really open about the topic. Is that how I'm hearing it?
Yeah, it's like, well, first of all, my psychologist, she diagnosed me, but she never talked to me about it.
Okay.
So I saw it like, on an official document, but she never openly discussed it with me. So I think that was the first sign that I didn't talk about it because she didn't talk about it. And she's a psychologist, so she should be talking about it. And then, well, back then I really struggled in high school. I didn't really have any friends. And if I tried to open up, um, yeah, I just could tell that they didn't understand, or they didn't want to try to understand, or they just kept on doing the things they were doing. So, yeah, I felt like I never belonged anywhere. So I never dared to open up.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, it was a mix of things, really.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you myself, like I struggle with like depression, anxiety, and also recovering from eating disorder. And I do have to agree that it's hard when people around you don't know um, about, first of all, about what you're struggling with, and they don't know how to support you, or things can really hurt if they say something that maybe they didn't intention to, but it still hurts when you are the one who's receiving it with the mental disorder. So I can really imagine um, how much you really wanted that support system, or how much you really wanted to open it up for other people who are struggling with the same thing, when they could be recovering in a much faster time, in a much more supportive environment, which is exactly what your organization is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of people feel like um, they are their depression, and that's not true. Depression is a part of who they are, but there are so many other things to a human being, of course. So I think if you open up a conversation, it becomes less and less of a feeling that it's like you as a person, but more that it's a part of you that you're working on and trying to well, hopefully get rid of. But it's a part of you, and it's not depression doesn't define you. And I think, at least for me, I really felt that when I was younger. I thought, oh, I'm going to be the kid with depression.
Mm,
But there's so many other things that belong to me. And right now I know that people know that, because like I'm open about depression and anxiety and everything, but I'm also open about other things I'm going through, positive ones, career
mm,
related ones,
mhm,
friend related. So I think once mental health becomes a part of a daily conversation,
mm,
I think people also start to feel like, okay, this is not who I am entirely, there's more to
mm,
me.
mhm.
I think that's a big help as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that just holding in kind of that heavy thing by yourself could really occupy a lot of your headspace. But once you just put it out there and realize that it is something that you can have in daily conversations with people around you, or even people you don't know, it just like clears your headspace for the positive things to flow in. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can really also attest to that, because for me also, like just opening up about it just like lifted up such a huge weight, and just gave me so much time and space for the other things that really matter in life, and I didn't feel defined by it, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, like, did you go, did you see a therapist, or how did it all work for you?
So mine, I would say it started with like an eating disorder. And it was actually there around high school, but it wasn't that big because I still had like my parents with me and I had a support system. But once I left like my family and my friends and just went to a completely foreign country with no one I
Mhm.
knew, it kind of like, I would say, grew really big. Like I hit quite a big wall with it. So it started with my eating disorder, but I myself didn't know what it was because in my past like friend group or like in my culture in Korea, no one talks about anything like mental disorders or eating disorders, especially eating disorders. So it was hard for me to get to a point to get a therapist because I didn't know what it was. My parents didn't even know what an eating disorder was. So it took like around a year for me to understand and for my parents to understand that, okay, wow, this is a big problem. And then I just started searching, yeah, like signing up for therapy, but it took quite a while because the waiting list is very long. Um, yeah, so I started therapy with two therapists in the Netherlands, but wasn't a match for both of them. Right now I'm in Korea and I have a psychiatrist, so I'm on meds and she is also my therapist. And yeah, I think this is quite a good match that I have. It's still we're still trying to figure out things. As you said, I'm not recovered like you aren't recovered completely yet. Um, but I really think it's a start and it's really different from the first time when I had no idea what it was from now
Yeah.
recognizing the problem and really trying to find solutions to it and like you like open up the conversation for other friends who might be struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you're like feeling you're making some progress now.
Yeah, exactly. So I can imagine the first time you started, were there people who were really relieved and um, got a lot of like advantage from it? How did people react to your mental health charity?
I think the people I knew, like personally, I think were a bit shocked to read stories about me because
Mm,
the way I did it is I started with my own story or like a part of my own story because I felt like, yeah, if I'm going to ask other people to share something, then I should do that too, of course. So I started. I think they were quite shocked because no one knew. So I got a lot of messages from people, and I think that's also it was quite overwhelming. And then I made sure that some of the people I knew who were also struggling with something or
mm,
had a friend, family member struggling,
mm,
I made sure I asked them like, "Do you want to share something too?" And they were open for it. So I made sure I already had like 10 people who want to share something just in case that nobody
mm,
felt like it's going to be a good thing to do,
mm,
just so that I wouldn't be alone out there because it was really scary to do these things. I think with everything you do online, like whether it's YouTube or a podcast or Instagram, that is like a bit more out of your comfort zone, it's scary to do that because what are your friends going to think? What are people going to think? So it was really scary. And once people I didn't know started sharing their story through Let's Break the Shame, I I also reached out to them afterwards to see like how you're feeling about it,
mm,
and they were always like, yeah, I got so many responses and people texting me privately, like people I know and people I don't know, and some of them even meet people online who have gone through the same kind of things and they kind of become like online friends. So I think it's also a way of connecting people, and maybe it's also a way for people to make new friends, whether that is online or offline, but it's just a way to, yeah, connect people with the same struggles and we're a bit similar to each other.
mhm. And the fact that you mentioned that is very scary to be putting these things online and sharing things that might be quite personal and not well talked about. Um, Me myself, of course, was scared when I first put out my podcast episode explaining about my whole background of my mental health struggles. But what do you think about sharing such like intimate personal details online for people to see? Do you think that there should be a line to it, or do you think that people should really have the freedom to share whatever they want about specifically their mental disorder? Um,
Yeah,
what do you?
should be
Yeah.
able to share. whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think we've lived in a society for too long where we pretended like everything was fine, where we just talked about how well our career was, about what a great family we have, things like that. Like everything was great and super, and um, we all know, like personally, that's not the case. Like everyone goes through things in life, and everyone struggles at a certain point in life, and why not talk about it? Because it's human. I am struggling. You are
Mm-hmm.
struggling. Someone else is struggling. We might not be struggling with the same things. But it's just like life is not always nice and fun. And the more we accept that, I think the better it actually gets because
Mm-hmm.
like it's part of life and we just accept that. And I know like I'm still scared to share something sometimes because what are people are going to think, or they're going to be like, oh, there she is again with the story. Um, but yeah, it's something I'm going through, and everyone's sharing things about how they graduated, got a new job, and everything. And why not share these things? It's part of life as well, and it doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me unqualified for things. It's just life. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true that sometimes the quote unquote good things in life, like success or graduating, getting a new job, can really overshadow these parts. And the way that it's put out in social media, especially, seems like there's something wrong with you. And I think by putting out these honest thoughts about our struggles and our mental health struggles, really just balances things out for people.
yeah,
And yeah, just kind of get that really toxic social media culture where everything seems so sunny but yours isn't, so you compare yourself to others. But yeah, I am 100% like an advocate of what you say. I think we should be honest with our struggles, our joys, just all of them are such important emotions and experiences. And a lot of the things that people connect with are the struggles that they have. So I really truly believe that, yeah, using social media that way can, as you said, connect so many people in such deeper ways and just make people feel much more comfortable in their struggles and in their daily lives.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is quite hard, I have to say, thinking about like how would my friends judge me or how would people judge me if, because we're in a culture that is so pushing on positivity, like positive psychology, trying to pursue happiness. And um, we're in a culture where it seems like you are complaining if you always talk about, your struggles. And that is also why sometimes I get self-conscious about talking about these things, because I was also brought up in a culture where it is it means you're weak if you talk about your mental health struggles. It means that you just want to find things to complain about and you're negative about life. Um, so personally, I do struggle with balancing like what others think about me and what I truly feel, because well, from what other people tell me, it seems like I'm overdoing it. But
Mhm.
also in my head, I feel like that's more of the reason to be putting out this content out there. So, yeah, I'm quite new to this, but I bet that you can probably shed some light on it and feel the same around it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'm not from the same culture as you are. And I think a lot of people always say, like, yeah, the Netherlands is such an open country. And that is true. That's really true. But even when it comes to these kind of things, we're not even close to really openly talk about it
Mm,
as well. So, like, it's always scary to put things out there, especially when you actually put your thoughts and feelings out there. But I think as I've grown older, I've also realized like I don't want to be surrounded by people who don't try to understand or who make me
mm,
feel bad about myself. And I think that's a way, like online is such an easy way to create a new community or environment where people actually support you. So I think we can use social media for the better. And especially there's a lot of mental health content out there. So it's fairly easy to find, to talk to people online and surround yourself with people who support that. And I think before social media, it was really hard um, to find friends who go through the same because no one spoke about it. You're not going to walk up to someone and say like, "Hey, I'm depressed. Do you have something to?" And but like online, you can search on hashtags or content. So you like once you're there, you're surrounded by people who understand and who care.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Uh, and obviously, the people who are physically present, you see them more often. But I've got some online friends, and it doesn't make them less valuable just because I don't see them. So environment says everything. So I think we should use on the online environment to create a better environment for ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as you said, if it's come to kind of an awkward situation for you to just straight up go up to a person and say, "Are you depressed?" It's much easier and accessible to be and less scary to search things online. And as you said, like there's so many platforms and out there in the internet of mental health group supports, and truly you can even build like on Instagram your feed based on all these mental health support like pages.
Yeah.
And as you said, also find comfort and relief that there are people struggling with the same things. And maybe it's because people are less scared to put out their thoughts when it's online instead when it's face to face. um, so I do truly believe that, as you said, the internet is such a great tool for connecting with people who have the same struggles. But is there a way then to like more easily approach people who are physically close to you to talk about mental health? Or is it still something that society needs to work on much more? Or is there something that we could do in order to open up the conversation less awkwardly? Or
Well, I think there's definitely a lot in society to change still about face-to-face conversations about mental health struggles. Um, but I do think, I mean, putting content online could be a way to start a conversation now with someone. You could be like, "Hey, I saw this post
mm,
uh, on mental health. What do you think about it?"
mhm,
Or I saw you posted this personally. So maybe that is a way to like sense if someone is struggling too, or if that person understands it or can relate. Other than that, I think face to face, it's still hard for me to talk about it, even though people know it, because sometimes it's just really difficult to drop it, like
mm,
when's the right time to talk about it. We're having a nice conversation now, I don't want to do it. We're having dinner, let's not ruin it. um, but I think you can start, or at least that's what I do. I never start a conversation with heavy things, so to say. So I just
mhm,
start like, yeah, I haven't been feeling so well lately. And then
mhm,
just see how people react to that. If they're going to
mhm,
be all judgy and everything, then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to open up, because the more I open up, the more it's going to hurt me.
mhm.
So that's what I try to like start with really small things and see how people react, and then see if you can open up from there.
I think that's a really great tip. The thing that you said, that try to start a bit lighter and then see people's reactions, because we really also need to be picky about who we open up to. As you said, if I open up and tell my whole story about my mental health journey to a person who gives for anyone who really doesn't care, I've just wasted my emotional energy and my time, and also their time and their perspective. But I think that's a really great tip that listeners can also just gauge on. Just start lighter, see their reaction, see if this is a person who can really accept you in this way, in the way that might be heavy and might be much more serious and quite, it could also get dark. Just try to see and gauge if there are people who can really manage it, and then talk about it if you think that, yeah, this is a person who can really accept me for opening up and being honest. But I think that's a really great tip. I haven't really thought about that, but yeah, I
You're welcome.
think that's a great tip. And it is true. It's still quite hard, and because in society people still think that these are heavy topics that should be avoided,
Mm.
making us harder for us to open up with it. But let's really hope that there will be a time where, we can very much openly and honestly talk about it without having so much hesitation, because as you said, there are so many people struggling with mental health. I think that almost everyone in some point of their life really struggles with their mental health. So it is a shared experience, and hopefully we are able to share it in our daily conversations.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully. So what is like the most rewarding thing for you just running this platform and working with people and doing these projects? What's really the most rewarding thing for you?
Helping them in a way, not necessarily directly as giving them advice or tips or things like that, but just helping them in a way that we created a safe environment where they can always come to us, share things, listen, read stories, join events. So I think we created like a safe bubble for people. And that's really rewarding that they also trust us. So it's a two-way street. Like we they trust us, but we also trust them to not share any of the stories they hear from other people, that it's safe here. And it's truly really rewarding to receive messages like that they found a new therapist because our activities or stories or whatever, or our help, push them in a different direction or give them a different perception on things, or that they met new friends. So it's really nice. And um, it's not that we want the people working for Let's Break the Shame, is not that we want like recognition for the person. Of course we want recognition, but it's not like we want to be put out there as oh, she helped me do that, or he, because
Mm-hmm.
of him I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really because we're all here for to help people. So Let's Break the Shame is out there for you. So like it's really rewarding that we're getting such nice compliments and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's difficult at times because sometimes the compliments you're getting or hearing, like yeah, because of Let's Break the Shame I'm still alive, and it's both really sad and rewarding is not the best word, but like at the same time, because I'm so happy they found like a place where they could, you know, share things, reach out to. But it's so sad that people need to have this kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it, it's a real struggle sometimes. So it makes things harder, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that that will be the difficult part of it, because you are really dealing with an audience that has such a deep struggle, um, that it might be quite heavy to deal with, because it's
Yeah.
like a line of like, it could be this person's life, that
Mm,
your content is really putting out, which is also can be a rewarding part, because you are the platform, you are kind of like the gateway for them to really feel connected to it. But at the same time, as you said, it's so sad that people need this online and that they don't have it in their surroundings to get
yeah.
the support. Um, so I can see how that could be quite heavy, um, in your perspective. But I also think, because the people probably working in Let's Break the Shame also have experience in a lot of their mental health, right?
Yeah,
So
all of
I,
us, yeah.
yeah, so I can imagine that everyone really has so much empathy, and because they have experienced through the same thing that their audience is, it's just already rewarding enough without getting recognition that you were able to help a person get by that day or to get a therapist, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're doing it as a team. We're all there putting in
Mm-hmm.
the best we can. So it's a team effort every day. And it's really nice to hear that the things we do helps people. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And definitely these things can be opened up, these conversations can be opened up by platforms such as yours. But also, as we said, it could be opened up by just regular people being more honest, whether in conversations or on social media. I think this is just maybe a personal takeaway for people to get, but um, just just like putting light on the good parts isn't helping you nor the person that you're talking to, because if you really want that person to have a healthy relationship with you and also with their struggles, then it is the best to be opening up to these darker, more serious struggles that we have. And I think that's just something that everyone could kind of take away, because like you said, someone might see your post about you being honest about your struggle and personally DM you, and maybe that's their first time opening up, and that could really be the start of such an incredible journey of just recognizing what you're struggling with and finding help and realizing that you do need help and that it's not your problem only, and that there are others that could be supporting you. So yeah, that's just something that I was just like, I just thought about when you talked about social media. um, but I
Yeah, it's
definitely
a good.
think, yeah, yeah. So really appreciate the initiation, how much you've been reaching out to people, giving others opportunities to share their stories and really alleviate their hearts from it. And I really think, I really wish the best for your platform and the audience and the team. And just for, I don't know, the last thing, what is maybe a last advice that you would want to give to the listeners?
I think, well, we've spoken about the talking part. I think talking is really, really important. But I think also to realize that even though you might be alone in your room or you feel you're surrounded by people but you still feel alone, there are so many people going through mental health struggles. Like, you're really not alone. And I think, like we said before, like, social media is the way to get access to those accounts and talk to people. So if you feel like you're alone in this, then go on Instagram or Facebook or join groups, and you'll realize you're not alone in all of this. And it will help a lot when when you see that you're not the only one.
Okay, thank you so much. So, as May said, you are not alone. If you're struggling, there are tons of people out there. Join Facebook groups, Instagram, any other pages. Use social media as a tool, not something that would destroy your mental health. Be selective. And
Yep.
yeah, so that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening. And I will link down below, like, Let's Break the Shame, the link, the website link, and the Instagram that they have, because I really think that people can benefit from this. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me and for the compliments.